not being out of town and never having done this before, having somebody who has feet on the ground, kind of walking you through it, holding your hand through it, and making sure that, properties are being renovated, people are being placed, having a team of people, that's super important. Okay. That's the first thing, but also that, things happened a lot quickly because you guys were doing that. They happened very quickly because you guys are doing that, as opposed to if I had been trying to do this on my own, right? I'd still be probably working on my first property here in Knoxville, and who knows? I would have had to, stumble along the way and hopefully written stuff down and, organized it for the next property.
Hey guys, Rhett here. What's going on? I am so excited to bring you today a coaching client, guys. This is Caleb. Caleb has been with me now. Caleb, what about probably 10 months?
Since this past, I want to say September, something like that.
Okay, yeah. All right, right. So not even 10 months, even a little bit shy of that, 8-9 months. Caleb, I just want to say, first of all, as I'm introducing you, I'm so proud of this guy. And Caleb, you came into this program and you came to me and you wanted to invest in Section 8 properties. You wanted to create a portfolio of Section 8 properties. We are about 9 months later. You just purchased your third Section 8 unit. You've been able to branch into 2 different markets, 3 properties inside of a year. Number one, thank you for coming on the channel. Thank you so much and talking about your story. But just talk a little bit about what this whirlwind of a past 9 months has been like for you.
So, I've discovered a lot of new things, a lot of things. And the biggest thing for me was I finished, graduate school again. Like I got my MBA, almost 2 years ago now. And I realized that I wasn't investing. I realized that, I was chasing, jobs and not really focusing on starting my own business. And I knew that, I went to grad school to be able to start a business. So when I came out, I was like, even with an MBA, for somebody like me, you master what you're interested in, right? And I'm not stocks and all that stuff. It's just something that it's really nebulous to me. So I was looking for something that was stable. And, I talked about real estate. I had somebody I was, kind of involved with at the time, even before when I started thinking about it. We had talked about, potentially, what that looked like. She owned, investment properties and things like that. And we just kind of toyed around with that. And when we went our separate ways, that idea still stayed with me because it's stable, it's guaranteed. She put the bug in my ear for Section 8. Wasn't totally sold on it, but then I started looking for people on YouTube, different, just trying to kind of do my own research and everything. And before I knew it, I stumbled across, and kind of the whirlwind of everybody else who had, had these overproduced videos and stuff like that. I stumbled across a guy who was just down to earth, spitting straight facts, talking about, writing on a whiteboard. I was like, this seems pretty authentic. Let me do a little bit more research into this. And, kind of here I am today.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did. And Caleb, in a really short amount of time, when you first came on board, I remember you were gung ho. You were like, this is what I want to do. And we're going to do this. And, move forward less than a year. You've done it. You've done it exactly. And you have literally put in your mind a goal and you set it and you crushed it. And there's no end in sight. I mean, you are a machine. And I love working with you because whatever you say, you're going to do. And you are so hell-bent on building this portfolio. And because of that, it's being created. And, inside of a year, you already have 3. In a couple of years from now, you're going to have 20, 30, 40 of these things. It's just not going to stop, which I love. Now, with that being said, you have 2 units that are cash flowing, right? Okay. They're both Section 8 units. They're cash flowing. They're up and running. And you have another one that you just purchased. I'm going to get into those. I'm going to get into all of them. We're going to unpack all of them. Okay. So the first property that you purchased, it was a 2-bedroom house.
Right.
You turned it into a 3-bedroom. You bought it for $55,900 and we put $34,000 into it. And it's renting Section 8 for $907 a month. Does that sound right?
Sounds pretty close.
Okay. So what has been the biggest learning curve? That was your first Section 8 property. What were some of the biggest takeaways you had from that unit?
So from the from the biggest takeaways that I had, were things aren't going to happen overnight, but with having not being out of town and never having done this before, having somebody who has feet on the ground, kind of walking you through it, holding your hand through it, and making sure that properties are being renovated, people are being placed, having a team of people, that's super important. Okay, that's the first thing, but also that things would have happened a lot quick. I think things happened a lot quickly because you guys were doing that. They happened very quickly because you guys are doing that, as opposed to if I had been trying to do this on my own, right? I'd still be probably working on my first property here in Knoxville, and who knows? I would have had to stumble along the way and hopefully written stuff down and organized it for the next property. So I guess the biggest takeaway is making sure that you have somebody to oversee this, right? So those are kind of the biggest takeaways. And some other ones that I had were kind of dealt with, like maybe some hidden costs or costs that that we probably went over, but that kind of just hit home a little bit, just hit home a little bit. Like, so I guess the need to make sure that you have an allocated budget, almost 10% of whatever you're going to spend set aside for making sure that that any kind of repairs or anything like that. Because I mean, Rhett, you and your team are going to catch almost all of it, but this is for those other things that, may happen out of the blue, or like the fact that we need to put, like a new range or like a new, refrigerator, in every home that we're responsible for. So when making purchases, I realized I've got to incorporate that into my budget as well. So I've got to be a little bit, even more conservative and really just kind of keep that in mind. But the biggest thing is like, without your help and without your program, I wouldn't be anywhere near this today. I'd still be fumbling around. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Caleb. And all it takes sometimes is a little bit of guidance, and you have all of the energy and the drive and the perseverance that you need. You put those two things together and you have a really well-oiled machine, which I think you and I work really, really well together, because you are a go-getter. I'm going to put you on the scent and you're gone and you're just building, which I love. So Caleb, while we were doing that first one, you bought another property. And I love this property. This is probably one of my favorites, because you bought this house. It's a 2-bedroom house. You bought it for $31,000.
Right.
And when I tell people that, and when I have conversations and I say, you can buy properties for under $40,000, they think that I'm a scam artist. They think that, I'm totally full of it and this doesn't happen all the time. You bought a house for $31,000, a 2-bedroom home. You put 31 into it, and it's renting right now, Section 8, $850 a month. What was that property like?
So that property was pretty similar. I remember that the rehab, there were a few more hiccups with rehab, but I remember that, we came to a crossroads. It was the first kind of hurdle that we had to cross where, I either could have spent, a significant amount trying to, repair. Sorry, let me back up. The gas line had been severed. It had been, static for so long that the gas company had said, hey, look, let's go ahead and sever this line. And that's one thing, to people coming into the program that they need to know is like, you're going to be responsible for paying the utilities, gas, water, and electric, 3 different companies in most cases, when you're, at least in Birmingham, while the renovations are done and until a tenant is placed, and they can assume that for you. So, that's something else to budget for. But, when in trying to budget for that, I found out that the gas was, severed. And so we made the choice of converting it into all electric. It costs a little bit more, but in the long run, it ended up being, the better decision, I feel.
Yeah. And guys, Caleb talks about 2 things there that are so important. Number one, having a reserve, because you don't always know what's going to go on. Me and my team have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rehabs, if not thousands. And still, sometimes we can't catch everything. So it's really important to have a reserve. And that is kind of an emergency fund of sorts. The second really important part of that is understanding that you need to budget for the utilities while a rehab is going on. And that might only be a couple $100, but if you have a tight budget, or you budget something in your mind, and then in reality, it's a little bit different from that, that's enough to cause a little bit of stress and anxiety. So it's 2 really, really good points that Caleb brings up there. Now, You're right, Caleb. For that house, we went full electric because I think the waiting time to get a new gas line was like 8 to 12 weeks, right? It would have pushed us back.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So we went full electric, which in the long run is going to make the utilities cheaper for the tenant, which is going to keep them in the house longer, but it's also going to add value to the home because it's fully electric. So we're in a really, really good spot there. And I'm really happy with that one and how it turned out.
Yeah, me too.
So you have roughly between those two, Caleb, you're grossing about almost $1,800 a month, about $1,750 a month between those two, right? You have property management all set up. You have all your pieces all set up. Everything's moving smoothly. And then you say, I'm not done. I want to get another one, but I want to do it in a different market. So then we move into a different market. You buy your third property, this one for $42,000, and it needs $30K in work. But this one is a 3-bedroom. We're going to convert to a 4-bedroom, which is going to get between $1,250 and $1,350 a month in rent. What has that been like? One of two things. This is a 2-part question, Caleb. Number one, moving into a different market, but number two, onboarding your third property inside of a year.
So number one, moving to a different market is sometimes important. Okay. We have like a group on Discord and everything like that, which I think is a phenomenal idea. But, I think one of the common things is like, if I can't find a multi-unit, because I'm thinking multi-unit, let me find another house that I can just buy cash and let's convert it and let's get some people in it. Okay. And the way Section 8 works is, the more bedrooms you have, the more likely, the more money you're going to get paid. Right. So, that was a pretty unique experience. And I felt like, I looked for a place where that could be converted. Pro tip, and I'm not a pro, but Rhett is. I mean, like if you're looking for a property, and you want to make more money, look for one that, and ask Rhett, hey, can we convert this to something else? Can we convert this to a 4-bedroom? I think it's a good business decision. So, I mean, we found a good property. Everybody was really patient with me in that process, and that was a little bit arduous. And the second question again, sorry.
Just what's it like adding your third property inside of a year? People, everybody thinks that they can add 10 properties a year or 20 properties a year, but then they add one and they realize how much goes into it. And they're like, oh my goodness, I got to slow down a little bit, right? You have added 2 properties in the past couple months and you're already adding a third. Just kind of talk about that a little bit. What has that been like for you? Because it's a lot of new things.
Definitely a lot of new stuff. I've gotten very acclimated with, sat down with Rhett and did some strategy planning, stuff like that. We found the best way to go about it was for me getting a home equity line of credit on my home. Okay. And what I was able to do with that, not to, get too personal, but what I was able to do with that is essentially budget for, three homes. Okay. It's kind of it's a little bit, I'm gonna be honest, there's a nervous aspect to it. You've got to take a leap of faith. You're not like, well, fingers crossed, I hope nothing else goes wrong, this, that, and the other. But in doing so, I have enough of a reserve that if, something were to happen, short of the house burning down, then it's able to be covered. Right. The other thing is, you see the progress that a person can take within this program, where I'm starting to learn the process a lot better now. First house, all over the place. Second house, I kind of knew what to expect. This house, I kind of understand what the cadence is a little bit better. And yeah, I mean, I think, I'm still going to have Rhett hold my hand, for quite a while. It's every bit worth it. No matter what anybody thinks, it's every bit worth it. But, it's definitely been a learning curve. And, we've, the program's kind of seen us every step through that.
Yeah. And Caleb, you're so real and you're so authentic. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on here, because guys, there's no BS with this gentleman right here. And I know you can tell just by watching him. And that's what I love about him. And one thing that this guy has done is it doesn't matter what comes up. It doesn't matter. We find something in rehab, boom, we take care of it. We find a property that doesn't work, doesn't fit the budget. We pass on it. We move on. There's no emotional connection to the properties. We're trying to find the best deal. And if it's not in the market that you want to buy in, Caleb, we move to another market. because
That's
you're
simple.
and you did
Period.
eventually. Period. Done. We're just moving on. We're finding the best deal. We're knocking it out and we're moving on. And sometimes as real estate investors, it's hard to do. It's hard to do, but we can't get emotionally tied to an area. We have to find the best deal at the moment. And as long as we have the team and as long as we have the logistics to make sure that it's going to be a viable, cash flowing, prosperous investment, we can slam it. And that's exactly what you did. That is 100% what you did. And guys, number one, you got to be convicted in your goals. And that's what Caleb has done time and time again. But you also have to make sure that when you do move into another market, you've got to make sure the logistics are there. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they get into markets where they don't have the team set up. One great thing about what Caleb did is he moved to a market where we can still use our team. It's far enough away where there's a ton of options, but it's close enough to where you can still scale with the same people. And Caleb, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they do really, really well in one market and they add 2 properties just like you did. And then they jump to a market 100 miles away or 500 miles away, where then they can't use the same contractors and realtors and management companies, and they got to start fresh. You're not doing that. You're able to stay in an area where you can use the people that you've been using the whole time, who you're comfortable with, but also they're comfortable with you. And so that symbiotic relationship can continue to work. And that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And if I could add too, it's for anybody out there who is kind of on the fence post and has maybe come across Rhett or some of the other programs and stuff like that. I can speak from experience of working from Rhett. I can't I can't speak from experience in working with some of the other guys, but I came to Rhett because of his authenticity. And the truth of the matter is, if you try this on your own because you've watched HGTV and I'm some people who are not initiated like myself and everybody else are, things that could potentially easily avoidable, easily repairable, but if they're left unchecked, they turn into like these costly, vile plumes of, money, and you guys are all of a sudden hemorrhaging money and you're way over budget trying to do it on your own because you watched a couple, episodes of Fixer Upper, like it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, I mean, I'll get off my soapbox, but, I don't mean to be, kissing bottom here, but it's best to have somebody who's experienced kind of doing this with you, especially if you're not there. That's all I was going to say.
Well, I appreciate that, Caleb. And you've got 2 Section 8 properties down. You're on your 3rd. You've purchased 3. You've spent over $200,000, right, with me in about 9 months. So I assume you've probably been to these properties 100 times, right? I'm sure you're checking on them every week. How many times?
Every single day. Every single day. I've never been there at all. Maybe on like Google Home or something, or Google Earth or whatever you call it. I don't know. I honestly haven't looked at them. Yeah, it's a well-oiled system. I'm sorry. It's a well-oiled system. So, you've got the property manager taking care of it. It's the only time that I will reach out to somebody is if, maybe, there's a lapse in payment or something like that, which can happen from time to time, just being real. But that's about the only time that I really need, and still with me?
Yep, I hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Said you cut out a little bit, but I can cut that out, so no worries.
Okay.
So Caleb, you're 100% right, and amazing that in today's day you have done all this. You have cash flowing properties, you have the team in place, and that's given you enough confidence to where you don't feel like you have to go see the properties. And I love asking people that, because the 2 biggest things that I get every single day from people are, number one, you can't buy properties under 50 grand. You can't do it. It's 2023, not possible. And then the other thing is, I'll never buy a property out of state. I'll never buy a property that I can't drive to and that I can't look at. And then I talk to people who have rental properties in their hometown, or who have a rental property an hour away. And I say to them, how many times have you been to that rental property? And they go, I've been, once in the last 12 months. Okay. You've been 1 time. So what's the difference if we buy something 10 streets over from you that you're only going to see once a year, Or if we buy something in a market that is going to be more profitable, going to create a higher yield on your investment, it's going to appreciate better, and the money's guaranteed. And people don't know what to say.
There's not a difference at all. And, for me, trying to get that money, I mean, like I'm not saying like that sounds like bad, but I mean, like what makes it real is seeing that money deposited, into your account every single month. And, again, it's not just about money. We're helping out people who are less fortunate, and we should feel good about that. That I don't want anybody to get lost in trying to, build wealth for themselves. So they forget, hey, you're also helping people out too. I mean, that's a good feeling. There's no shame in that at all. But at the same time, you're doing this for a purpose. We all have goals and everything like that, and this is a means to do this. This is a stable, steady means that while you will have problems along the way, is largely, I feel like, largely bulletproof. Like you may have minor issues that come up, and the issues are minor because you're working, with a team that's kind of making sure and managing those issues, as opposed to you having to figure stuff out that's very costly along the way. So.
Right. And it's very wise. You're 100% on. And Caleb, if you've learned a couple things about Section 8, what are some of the things that you've learned in the past year, less than, in doing this? Pros, cons, what have your overall thoughts been like about the Section 8 program in general?
So the first pro is, and you can kind of look at it as a con as well, but you will not necessarily get as much money as you could, but guess what? It's guaranteed money because it's on the government's, most of the government's check. Some tenants may have a portion of their own to pay, which I think is given at the end of the month or something like that. But for the most part, it's guaranteed money. The other thing is Section 8 gets a bad rap. And before, I looked into this program or anything like that, I never would have. First thing I hear Section 8, you think of, a lot of negative stereotypes, and we forget, people are people, man. And it's about, there's people who are going to not take care of property no matter where they go. In fact, I've been one of those people before too, when I was in college at a certain place that I live. I'm not going to tell on myself, but I mean, the bottom line is at the end of the day, it's about selecting the tenant. And since you don't have feet on the ground, and since you're not experienced with doing it, you have a team in place that's going to do that for you. They're going to find the tenant. They're going to let them see the house. They're going to place the tenant. All you got to do is make sure the house is renovated, livable, up to code, and then buy them a new fridge and a new range. And that's it.
Yeah. And all that I talk about, Caleb, and because you live this, is if you provide a nice place to live for people, they are going to show you the respect in return. They're going to stay there for a really long time, and they're going to make sure that they take care of those units. It is, you take care of them, they take care of you. And it's all about finding the right tenant. As long as you screen the people the right way and find the right people, you're going to get taken care of. And when the money's guaranteed and they can stay there forever and they're not paying rent, they end up being there for 15, 20 years, which is the reality of it. And it's just amazing. And then Caleb, I appreciate your time so much. I'm going to let you go here in a minute. I just want to end on this. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in regards to the size of your portfolio?
So I'll do you one better. I don't think I'm going to ever stop building this portfolio until a certain point. And, I may, cash out at some point and maybe try to buy an apartment complex. That takes a lot of work or something like that. But my goal by the end of 2023 is to have 8 units that are fully occupied. Okay. And so that means that my next purchase, I'm looking at that, one of those 5-plexes that's in Birmingham right now. And using the money from each of these homes to buy that, okay, cash out, and for including rehab costs and stuff like that. But by the end of 2024, my goal is to have no less than 20 units, because one thing that's great about this team is that you're going to make sure that we have a great return on investment, okay? And to me, that means no less than, after all expenses are paid, including property management, insurance, whatever have you, the 10% maintenance fee or whatever, each unit is cash flowing no less than $500 a month, right? That makes the most financial sense. You have 20 units, that's $120,000 a year of passive income with you putting in less than an hour of work a week, less than an hour of any kind of work, 120,000, and you're using money, like, it's weird. It's like you're using the bank's money against itself to buy more houses. Like, I don't know. It's one of the biggest hacks in the world. So I would just, I would leave everybody on this. It's like, if you were nebulous, if you're somebody who just has no idea where to get started, it's going to take a leap of faith. It's going to take, some leveraging, some kind of income, okay, or some leveraging of some kind of, monetary fund. But at the end of the day, if you start with a team like this who's going to take care of you, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, you'll be successful. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that, 5 years from now, I'm going to be great. So, or 5 years from now, I'm going to be financially set. Sorry, I didn't mean to say great, but I mean, you know what I mean?
You're great right now. You're going to be financially set a lot sooner than 5 years. You keep this pace up, you're going to hit your goal. You're going to have 8 at the end of 2023. You're going to have 20 by the end of 2024. And Caleb, I'm so happy to have had you on today. Thank you so much for getting on. I lied. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
My last question is, and you mentioned it briefly right there, but if you could talk to those people right now who have no experience in real estate or who are on the fence, what would you tell them to get them up, get them going like you did? Because you have no problem with it. You are dead set on what you want to do. What would you tell the person that's on the fence?
I would tell, especially the young people, whether it's the young people who haven't gone to college yet, but they're hard workers and they've like saved a bunch of money or something like that, or whether it's people who have graduated from college, and somebody from like one of these Northwest Mutual or Edward Jones, which are not bad places, are just trying to get them to invest in some kind of mutual fund. Look, retirement is dead. Period. Okay, retirement for millennials, Gen Z, all that stuff. I think it's dead. I personally do. You've got to do something for yourself that's going to create some kind of residual income or give yourself enough of a nest egg that you can truly live off of when you're no longer able to work. Okay. Get started as young as you are. Okay. And that's I mean, that's all I would say. Having a home is a foundation for doing anything else. And if you ask a homeless person if, you could either give them a roof over their head or a free cell phone that would mine cryptocurrency and trade NFTs and do affiliate marketing for them, 100% of the time, they're going to choose, put a roof over my head. You know what I mean? There's just value added in having a place to stay. And people will always need a place to stay. This is stable, it's good, and this program rocks. Absolutely.
My man. Caleb, I appreciate you so much for coming on. Guys,
absolutely.
Please leave your questions and comments for Caleb in the comment section below this video. He'll be in there, and I'm sure he'll answer whatever questions you have for him. If you're not already in the Discord, sign up for the Discord. He's in there all the time as well. He is a fantastic person to ask questions to because he's done it. He's doing it. He's learning on the fly. He's doing everything that you want to do when you think about becoming a real estate investor, especially an out-of-state real estate investor who's able to get into markets, buy these properties for cheap, do the right thing, treat people the right way, and receive the benefits from that. So Caleb, thank you so much for coming on today. Guys, thanks.